How you doing, people? Stringing a Prince Beast 98 with Hybrid G17 at 50 pounds. It's an O-port racket. Haven't strung an O-port in quite a while now, so I will either make a mistake stringing it from the wrong side or figure out or get lucky and string from the right side. We'll see. First, let me cut out these strings. It says it's 16 mains and 20 crosses. Obviously, it's 98 square inch. Recommended tension says 55 to 62. So I'm gonna string it at 50 for him, being that this is a poly. This racket has 6 grommet holes in the throat, so I'm starting it from the throat. Yeah, this customer really had no preference in terms of what strings he wants or likes and what tension he wants. So this is just based on my recommendations, and then he's gonna let me know how things work out. This racket has its first skip at the 7 grommet hole at the bottom as well as at the top. And then it skips again at the 9th grommet hole, top and bottom as well. I've since boosted up my tie-off knot tension higher to 20% now, because I've seen a couple of people who tend to pay attention to how straight or crooked the last main string is. Sometimes when they bring rackets back for me to restring, they'll question me about the tension of these last main string, as sometimes it'll bow out. Most of the time it bows out because the tension is much lower compared to the rest of the mains, and the fact that the deformity, I should say, in the shape of the racket causes that. So I boosted up my tie-off knot tension to 20%. That's 5% more. Matter of fact, yesterday, for one of my important customers, I even, before I go to pull the last tension, I even jack up pulling tension up by like 3 pounds for him. I mean, most of the times we shouldn't be hitting the balls on the last bit of strings toward the sides, but some players care about that, so we need to address it. Good. So now comes the tricky part. I remember these old board rackets, they're directional. You're meant to start it from one side and not the other. So I'm gonna see. So it's meant to, okay. All right. So I'm gonna go, okay. All right, that's easy. Basically, I found out which are my first 3 holes for the crosses, which happens to be this one, this one, and this one. And since the third hole for the third cross is meant to wrap around from the regular grommet hole, wrap around into the first O-port opening. All right. There's supposed to be a loop here to wrap around. Therefore, I'm pretty sure the direction of this, which way the string goes, is in this direction. If I go from 3, 2, 1 and up, and we'll find out if my assumption is true or not. Could probably look up some kind of stringing string pattern guide, but who has time for that? Tight. tie-off hole is going to be next door on the 6th main string. That's the tie-off hole for my tie-off knot, which is going to be the same as Parnell knot. It's the same knot that I use all throughout, whether it's starting knot or finishing knot. I use the same knot, Parnell knot. And some people complain how I pull the tension on a knot. So I still do it, but I make sure my knot doesn't sink into the grommet. I make sure I got my clamp ready over here. The moment it starts to sink into the grommet, I make sure I clamp that off so as to prevent any damage to the to the grommet. So it looks like my starting method is correct as I continue to do the 4th cross. And I'll pre-weave the 5th cross. It's important to see that on this side, both the 4th cross and the 5th cross go on the same O port. Okay, just on each side. This string on the left side, and then the 5th string on the right side. With the Opal rackets, the brake function on the stringer can really come in useful, but since I don't have the brake function, I'll just have to make do. I mean, I have a manual brake, I don't have an electric brake. The brake is one of the menu options, but I don't think the control is hooked up to the actual mechanical brake that's required in order for that function to actually work. So as you can see, this O port being so big that it's making my 5th string go on an angle like this, which is no good. We want to keep every cross string at a correct angle. Therefore, you see how I need to rotate the racket like this with my body to a point where I think that should be enough to compensate for the angle change. Then I lock the base. This way it ensures my cross string stays 90 degrees from vertical. So release the previous clamp before clamping off the current clamp. Then unlock my table. And then same thing. Oh, no, if you notice that on this side, the first O port already contains 2 strings already, therefore it's full. Therefore I will go into the next O port, which will also accommodate the next 2 strings. Same thing on this side. As you see, the O port already has 1 string, and this will be the second string coming out of the same O port. Alright, and this is where I'll need to gauge. I know that if I don't lock the table like this, the string will become crooked like that. Therefore, I need to rotate my racket over by a number of degrees. Alright, from experience, I know that approximately over there should be enough. Lock my turntable, and it turned out that it's not nearly enough. You see how the end of the string is still bending upwards. Therefore, I need to rotate even more. Alright, we'll try that angle. Okay. That's more like it. Alright, and then we'll just repeat the same motions for the rest of the crosses. Obviously, it'll be much faster for a stringer that has electric brakes or electromechanical brakes compared to this one. So this one will do fine. On some even cheaper or lower cost machines even, it doesn't even have a manual lock. Instead, the stringer is forced to have to hold the racket in a certain position with the body. That would be much more of a pain, if you ask me. So this one will be like this. Alright, it needs to be at least there, I would think. You need to establish a straight line from the edge of the O port to the puller. That's the trick. Somehow I ended up with 1 extra string in that O port. See, this is how things can be messed up, and we'll just quickly correct it. And luckily, I put a trailing clamp on there before I loosened the tension on the last couple of strings. No more than 2 strings in the same O port. At this point, I didn't need to lock the turntable because the cross string is already definitely horizontal, and I could see that it was leaning against the edge of the O port for support anyways. So it's only for, on this racket in particular, it was only for cross strings, I say from 4th to the 12th cross string that needed the turntable lock. See that I got quite a bit of crooked string, so I'm gonna straighten them before it's too late. I don't like to wait till the end of the string job anymore, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to straighten them and then keep them straight. And then we'll adjust them. Cut these strings way too long again. Probably like 1.5 feet to 2 foot. like it for it to end up on the bottom. You see how my cross string is laying below the existing 2 main string loops? Therefore I like this one to come out on a, right below it as well, because the tile hole is right next door. Space over here is very small because of the clamp. But I don't want to move the clamp over the string. Finally. These O boards, they keep the crosses pretty straight. It's pretty easy to adjust them. There you go. Thank you very much for watching. Any questions or comments, put them below. Please like and subscribe, and I shall catch you next time. Take it easy.